What if I told you that the best driver on day one in Bahrain was not only the fastest, but also the smartest? What if I told you that Lewis Hamilton is no longer just a legend at Ferrari, but the technical pillar on which the 2026 project is being built? Stay, because what we are going to tell you goes beyond the headlines. This is what no one showed you about Hamilton's true performance in the Bahrain tests. What happened on the first day of 2026 preseason testing in Bahrain is not just another anecdote nor a simple start to activities. It is the type of day that, without making a sound, sets the course of an entire season. And at the center of it all was Lewis Hamilton. But not the Hamilton that many expected to see. This was not the symbolic debut of a legend who lands at Ferrari. It wasn't marketing. It wasn't nostalgia. It was pure engineering, talent, data, and a brutal understanding of the car, the environment, and the moment. The superficial narrative says that Hamilton was the fastest of the day and that Ferrari surprised. But if one closely analyzes what happened, what was really experienced was the appearance of an unexpectedly early synergy between the pilot and the machine. The SF26, which in Barcelona had left doubts about its stability in fast corners and its traction on exit, appeared in Bahrain with a totally different attitude. According to technical reports and analyses published by specialized media, the car showed a greater mechanical platform, a much more linear torque delivery, and an ability to maintain balance in slow and medium corners with surprising consistency. And that is where Hamilton was key. Because the British driver not only got into the car, he integrated it. Instead of imposing his style, he adapted it to Ferrari's DNA. In just a handful of runs, Lewis showed that he had understood how and when to take advantage of the SF20 SIXS grip peaks, how to synchronize the 0.67/6S hybrid delivery with the traction points, and how to exploit the temperature window of the compounds in the hours of lower wind and higher grip. He did not do it looking for the typical glory runs that Ferrari used to pursue in previous years. He did it from a much more mature, almost surgical approach. Therefore, when Ferrari appeared as the reference in flying lap, and when Mercedes led the average pace, the true value was in what happened between the lines. How Hamilton not only fulfilled the program of the day, but shaped that program in his own way. On how the SF26 behaved when he was behind the wheel, especially in the second sector of Sakir, where Ferrari historically suffered from traction. That was where the British made the difference. This was not just another test. It was a silent declaration of intent. And only those who looked beyond the stopwatches understood that something very serious began that day at Ferrari. A fast lap can happen by chance. A car can hide its defects in a one-off session. But when someone manages to be consistent during different load levels, with changes in track temperature, variable crosswinds, and different compounds, we are no longer talking about luck. We talk about control, reading, of domain. And that was exactly what Lewis Hamilton showed on his first serious day of work with Ferrari in Sakir. Beyond the fastest time of the day, what truly impressed was what was seen in the details of the driving. In the onboards, in the filtered telemetries, and in the way the car responded under his command. This is not to say that Hamilton was fast. It's about explaining why it was and how it was achieved. And that story is much deeper than any press summary can tell you. First, you have to understand the technical context of the car. The SF26 is not the most downforce car of the group. Ferrari has sacrificed some overall payload in favor of a more stable platform, with a wider operating window. This means that, although the car does not generate the same downforce as the McLaren or even the Mercedes in fast corners, it does allow greater ease of adaptation in different conditions, particularly in critical phases such as braking and medium traction. Hamilton, knowing this, did not force the car where he did not have to. Instead of attacking each corner as if it were a quali, he worked with the car. He let the SF26 express itself. It helped him flow. In the middle corner, for example, he was seen to release the brake pedal slightly earlier than expected, allowing the car to rest naturally. Then I applied a minimal correction to the steering wheel. No unnecessary fights, no overloads. And that, in cars as sensitive as the current 2026, makes all the difference. Another key technical detail was oversteer management. Unlike other drivers who were forced to make multiple micro-adjustments when exiting corners, the sign of a nervous or poorly calibrated car, Hamilton allowed the car to rotate naturally. It used a long, sustained, but perfectly controlled type of oversteer. This technique not only generates less stress on the rear axle, but also extends tire life without compromising output speed. It's a typical signature of the greats, letting the car work with you, not against you. But the most revealing thing was not what he did in one lap. It was what he repeated lap after lap. In runs of 5 and even 6 consecutive laps, the pattern was very clear. First lap, aggressive but clean. Second, just a tenth slower. Third and fourth, in total stability. Fifth and sixth, minimal falls within acceptable margins even for a qualifying round. This behavior is exceptional in preseason testing. And it is even more relevant if we remember that one of Ferrari's great historical problems was precisely the thermal degradation of the rear tire in hot conditions, such as those in Bahrain. Here, that weakness seemed neutralized. And the way Hamilton executed those runs was a clear example of his influence not only as a driver, but as a developer of the tool he has in his hands. This is not just a test reading. It is an example of the mental process of a 7-time world champion. Because Hamilton wasn't pushing to make the headlines. I was collecting data. I was testing how the rear axle reacted with different trajectories. I was watching the ERS deliver power at the limit. I was anticipating how the car would behave in a long run, within 2 weeks, within a month, within a full season. And that's what makes it different. Where others see a test as an opportunity to impress, he sees it as an opportunity to build. He is not looking for the perfect return, but for the perfect system. And the most disturbing thing about all this is that it seems to be much closer to achieving it than many imagined. Lap times are what everyone sees. But what is truly important in Formula One is not what is obvious. It's what's hidden between the lines. And what the first day of testing in Bahrain left behind was not simply that Hamilton was fast. What he left was a message. One that was not shouted with statements or interviews, but conveyed with tire monitoring, energy management, car body language, and data repeatability. That message was clear. Ferrari has taken a real step and Lewis Hamilton is leading that leap.ina category where everything is increasingly compressed, where the differences between teams are measured in thousands and where technical development is a race against time. What Hamilton did in Bahrain was to establish a baseline. While other drivers were still trying to understand how the new aerodynamic packages worked, how to read the temperature windows of the new compounds or how their power unit reacted in mixed conditions, Hamilton was already using each lap as a learning module, crossing track data with the simulator, adjusting trajectories to evaluate the sensitivity of the rear end and validating correlations with his race engineer in real time. All of this served to validate a second conclusion that may go unnoticed by the average viewer. The SF26 is not only a car that has corrected the mistakes of the past. It is a car built around a new technical language. One that prioritizes mechanical stability, braking docility, and a hybrid system, ERS plus engine map, that responds with surgical precision to the pilot's requirements. And this is where Hamilton comes in as a structural figure. Because it is no longer in Ferrari as a symbol. He is his technical leader. Not like someone who gets to get in the car and adapt, but as the one who defines from within how that tool should evolve. This can be seen in small details. The specific tests in the second sector of the circuit, where Hamilton worked on his medium traction line not to find the fastest time, but to check consistency of cornering with minimal load variations. That's a correlation test. That's the job of a pilot developer. And all this makes more sense when interpreted at a strategic level. The Bahrain tests are not just rehearsals. They are psychological territory. In a Formula One where each team analyzes the behavior of its rivals to the millimeter, showing solidity without exaggerating is a very specific way of sending a message. We are ready, but we are not going to show everything now. Ferrari, historically eager to demonstrate, opted for something different this time. They didn't look for headlines. They did not force rating settings. They didn't push with aggressive maps. They just let the car do the talking and have Hamilton translate it. The result was twofold. On the one hand, a solid, stable, repeatable batch without abnormal degradation. On the other hand, a fast lap that came naturally without the team specifically looking for it. That gives Ferrari something it hasn't had in years: quiet credibility. Tire management during long runs suggests that Ferrari has achieved what has cost it so much in recent seasons, extending the life of the rear tire without penalizing corner entry. And that historically difficult balance in a red car is allowing a driver like Hamilton to use long rotation techniques, with constant support, without overheating the tires. That not only speaks well of the car. He talks about the car having been perfectly interpreted from the inside. That its rate of degradation is understood. That their response to different balances is mastered. In short, you can compete with it from the first moment. That's why this day of testing was not just a technical success. It was a coup of authority. Because while the world was watching to see if Hamilton would adapt to Ferrari, what was actually happening was that Hamilton had already begun to transform Ferrari. And that change already has consequences. Leave me your opinion in the comments what you think about all this.